Hello, everyone, and welcome, students and staff. Today's topic is Let's Keep It Real and Positive with special guest Stephanie McKenzie. Stephanie came to coaching after building an award-winning marketing agency, working with celebrity clients such as Lisa Nichols with Chicken Soup for the African American Soul, Debbie Allen, Shaquille O'Neal, DeVry University, Wrigley's, and the nationally syndicated Tom Joyner Morning Show, to name a few. With 30 years of entrepreneurial experience, the one thing that she's learned is that healing is the key to loving ourselves at our highest levels. Her clients are often people who create impact and exceed their goals. She is a certified coach, intuitive healer, shift starter, and superhero. So everyone, please welcome Stephanie McKenzie.
All right. Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys today? I'm so used to being in front of people that I can actually hear. This is going to be very interesting. So, Nellie, you might have to play my audience for a minute.
Absolutely.
Hey, okay, see, everything changes when I get audience. All right, so I'm good to just go ahead and get started. Am I understanding that?
Yes, ma'am. And what I could do, Stephanie, is I do have it on Q&A right now, but if you'd like,
Okay.
I can open the chat and I can turn it off whenever you'd like.
Whatever works
Okay.
best. 'Cause I'm feeling like there are probably going to be some questions, but I'll go ahead and get into that. Thank you so much
Okay.
for allowing me to come and talk. And my favorite thing is to empower other people, and so I'm excited about what's happening today. I do have my notes, so if you see me looking aside, I am not disengaged, but I am making sure that I am on point and on time. So today we're supposed to talk about the power of the mind. And what I'm about to tell you, I'll go ahead and say none of it is rocket science. However, I do hope it will give you some tools to look at things in a different way. Just my hope. All right. As it's been said, yes, I am a coach. I'm actually additionally one of the professors here on campus, and I get to teach business and marketing and human relations and supervision and a lot of other neat courses. So I'm super excited about that as well, sewing into the lives of my students. So the power of the mind. What does that actually mean? I tell you, people say things like, oh, if you can believe it, you can achieve it, and yada, yada, yada. And at the end of the day, I think that's true. I really believe that our minds conceive, receive, and achieve. And I'm like, what does that mean, Stephanie? I'm so glad you would ask me that. I believe that the mind conceives an idea, it receives instruction to carry out that idea, and then it achieves the outcome, whatever that goal is. It could be large or small. I believe that. However, it's not as simple as it sounds. And some of you can probably relate to that. Because before it does any of that, it's going to assign, align, and design. And that's where we have to start our work. So when it assigns, that means that it's going to assign value to our experiences. So if you've ever had an experience in your life, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, because I deal with healing, I often speak about trauma in an energetic sense, in a spiritual sense. So I want it to be clear that I'm not a licensed professional counselor, and nor am I acting as such. However, what happens when we perceive that we've been treated a particular way, if we've been neglected, if we've been rejected, if we've been abandoned in any way, that's a traumatic experience. Oftentimes people don't want to say that. They want to leave trauma to larger infractions, abuse, and whatnot. But when we have experiences where our expectations are met, that can be traumatic, especially if you're a child, but no different when you're an adult. And so out of that, our mind is going to assign a value to that. And out of that value, it's going to align our identity with it. And it's going to say, okay, at some point, and some of you have these thoughts in your head, and it's okay. We can talk about it during Q&A or not. But sometimes you get those thoughts in your head that's like, you know what, you're not good enough. That's not going to work out. Or my favorite, remember the last time? And you hear those things in your mind, and sometimes they make you think, okay, well maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And because of that, because you're assigned and because you're now aligned with this, right, it's going to design an operating system for your brain, for your mind. And if you know anything about computers, an operating system is what we do everything on. Now, I am a PC person, so I'm sorry for you Apple people, but this is the way I see it. I remember and I've had a computer since I was 9. And I remember when the modern computers came in, and I was so excited to get a 486-66. That was the thing. That was it. That was the speed. That was the operating system. That was everything. And I think it was operating on like Windows 80 something, whatever it was. Anyway, but now we're on Windows 10. And so the challenge is that computer, which would be at this point probably 20 years old, can't handle what I'm trying to put on it. If I was sitting here with a 486-66, first of all, we wouldn't even be here. It wouldn't have USB ports. It wouldn't be able to handle a microphone. It wouldn't be able to handle video. It wouldn't be able to do any of these things. It wouldn't have the processor. And a lot of times when we're taking in these old experiences and they're being assigned that value of, well, you're this, and we're aligning with that value, even if it's inadvertently, and we're saying, oh my goodness, I'm this, then we're designing based on that operating system that usually is out of date. And so when you decide to go do a new thing, it's like, we're still running on the old program. In fact, I also remember having an iPad 1, which I know is inconceivable. Do not laugh at me. The college gave them to us. They didn't give us any news. And so I remember, and some of you, now those of you who are Apple people, you do know that when it's time for your phone to be, upgraded, stuff just doesn't work. This is what I've heard from the Apple people. Nod if you agree. And so I remember trying to put new programs on my iPad 1, and it was like, no, there's no room. We're not compatible. You don't have the space for this. And so again, if we're running on that outdated operating system, it becomes very hard for us to believe it and achieve it, because again, we're over here dealing with that operating system that everything has been built on, everything. And so it creates what I call binding beliefs. I know you've heard the term limiting beliefs. Well, my term is binding beliefs. And a binding belief, again, this is according to Stephanie, a binding belief is a belief that binds you to something that may not be good for your ascension. By that same token, it can bind you to something that is great for your ascension and your elevation. So I don't want to necessarily say everything's a limiting belief, but it can be binding. And it can bind you to things that are holding you back. And so at some point, because you've watched enough YouTube videos, you're surrounded by friends that actually want to see you do well, you decide to change. Yay, you. And when you decide to change, a lot of times it's an external type of situation. It's not internal. It's just doing things differently. And I've often said that transformation without healing is a recipe for regression, period. Complete recipe for regression, because we've got to deal with what's on the inside. The operating system is on the inside. I can't change my operating system by pushing buttons. I can change my operating system by cracking open the device and changing out the motherboard and some internal things. So oftentimes when we change, it leads to that toxic positivity. And toxic positivity, although there are numerous definitions, for me, it's really about saying things are great when they're really not. And you're like, somebody says, how are you doing? And on the inside, everything just feels like it is running amok. And you're like, I'm great. Life is good. I'm amazing. And it's like, first of all, your decibels are way too high to be realistic, because usually that's how you know when you're lying. You're like, everything's great. Okay, why did your voice just go up, 6 decibels? Well, it's because I'm really trying to convince myself, and this is my convincing voice, and this is how I convince myself that everything is fine. And I'm like, listen, toxic positivity is because we're fighting against the operating system. It's still there. Because again, you want to do a new thing. Maybe you don't want to say the things you used to say or go the places you used to go or deal with the people you used to deal with. And all of that is external. But until we turn internally, turn inward and look at the operating system, then we'll use toxic positivity as a way to stop us from going backwards. Because we don't want to go backwards. We're very clear about that. We don't want to, we don't want to take our Windows 10 life and run it on a 486-66. That's not what we want to do. We really don't want to do it. But the challenge is that we're still so very afraid to see loss clearly. And that's where the challenge comes in, is that we don't see loss clearly because we're going to lose. Let's see, I don't care how good you are at something. I don't care how amazing you are at, stopping this thing or saying these things. When we haven't dealt with what's on the inside, we can easily be triggered by loss of any kind. It can be the loss of a job. It can be the loss of an opportunity. It can be the loss of a significant other. It can be the loss, anything. So loss matters, and loss causes us to grieve. And grief reminds us of our fears and our heartaches and our sadness. And that triggers us into possibly what hasn't been dealt with in the operating system, because triggers are literally just our past saying hello, like really hard. Kind of like when you're at the airport and they're like, telling the planes to come in and they're really aggressive about it. That's what a trigger is. And so when we experience loss, we have to see that clearly if we don't want to continue to engage in toxic positivity and we want to be empowered. So seeing it clearly means recognizing that whatever has happened is just an occurrence. It is not a final outcome. Yes, you may have failed. That does not make you a failure. Yes, you may have lost something, or you may lose a particular competition. You're not a loser. So you can't, because the challenge is that when you start to play that in your head as a final outcome, now you're feeding the information that was given to you when we were talking about assign, align, and design. You're feeding that. There's an experience that you had where you felt like a loser, where you felt like a failure, or God forbid, somebody told you you were a loser or you were a failure. Okay? And that none of that is true. But again, until we get inside this thing, until you crack yourself open and really begin to deal with what's going on with that operating system, it's hard for you to understand loss. And so sometimes you will engage in toxic positivity. I've done it. I did that for years, just telling everybody, everything was fine. When my father died, it took me 6 months to actually break because I was too busy trying to be strong, too busy trying to take care of this, too busy trying to take care of that. And so it took about 6 months before I was cracked open. But in the meanwhile, I was toxically positive. I was okay in my highest voice ever. I was good. Everything's fine. Well, it's hard some days. And so those are the things that we say. And when we engage in toxic positivity, it also minimizes what we're feeling. And anytime we minimize what we're feeling, we dishonor ourselves. We dishonor ourselves. And we can't dishonor ourselves because we're so amazing that we have to honor every part of us. So what do we do? What do we do with this toxic positivity? Nellie, what do? We do something. Okay, great. So we learn to take the L. Now, before you get too deep in, the first thing that we have to remember is that L is not loss. It might be loss, but it's actually a lesson. L means lesson. You've got to remember that, because here's the thing. You're going to have feelings. You're going to see things a certain way. You're going to wish things had gone a certain way. You're probably going to be triggered. And so giving yourself all of that is important. And I'll get to that in a minute. But seeing it clearly, saying, you know what? I might be able to learn something from this. I'm not necessarily ready to learn it in this moment because I might be a little bit upset, but I might be able to learn something from this. And so after you do that, then you can make room for the correct emotions. A lot of toxic positivity is spun around you saying something's good when it's really bad. You trying to be all good and excited about something that is really crushing you on the inside, or trying to be okay. It's okay to not be okay. It is so okay to not be okay. And so in that process of learning and taking the L meaning lesson, you're making room for the correct emotions. You are going through the grieving process. You are examining the dynamics of grief: anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, sadness. Wait, I always miss one. Always miss one. But these are not, I hate people call them stages of grief, because you actually go back and forth. One day you might be angry, and that's okay. One day you might be in acceptance, and that's okay. And you're probably saying, well, Stephanie, nobody died. Nobody has to die. Loss is loss. I think sometimes it's harder when we lose people out of our lives and they're still walking among us than it is when we lose people and we know that we'll never see them again. A lot of that's a lot of unresolved energy that we have to deal with, versus when a person has passed on, then they've passed on, and we're clear about that. So we're just dealing with that. But when you're going through a breakup or a divorce, or maybe your friend, left you, or maybe you just realize that these are not the people that are surrounded. The people that are surrounding you want to see you win. Maybe you come to that realization and you're just like, oh my goodness, these people have been my friends for 15 years, for 10 years, for 25 years, for 30 years, for 6 months. Or these are all the friends that I have. So loss is loss is loss. And loss is really one of our greatest teachers. Again, that's why I say loss means lesson. And so we make room for our correct emotions. We don't, now listen, you don't have to go around telling everybody your business. But if you're not feeling great that day, acknowledge that. It's okay to not be okay. I know you've seen that on the internet, but it's so true. It's okay to not be okay. Okay? Lastly, well, not lastly, but next, realize that you may create things from this space. What? Absolutely. You may create journal entries, or you may create a painting. Listen, I have worked with people that went on to create whole businesses out of their healing. You might write a book. And so this is why we have to give those emotions, all of the emotions, the space to come in to teach us, but not linger beyond the lesson. And we give that by allowing them to come in. Sometimes I just have to ask, hey, emotion, why are you here? What do you want? And so I will sit still and I will get the answers, versus, yeah, I don't want to deal with that. Yeah, I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be afraid. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. It's real easy to say what you don't want to be, but your mind, again, going back to the power of your mind, you may not know this, but your mind does not comprehend don't. So when you keep saying, I don't want those kind of people, I don't want that kind of relationship, I don't want that kind of job, I don't want, your brain doesn't hear the don't. So now it becomes very important that you speak, I want this type of job, I want this type of relationship, I want this type of friendship, because your brain will align with, remember, assign, align, design. This happens, this is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time thing. And so when you're speaking, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, more than likely you're getting the same things over and over. And you're saying, well, wait, I said I don't want this. Your brain doesn't comprehend don't. And so it's aligning with the statement, sans the don't, and giving you the operating system to build upon. And you're like, okay, so this is why we've got to speak well to ourselves. The thing you may create out of this space is an amazing collection of affirmations. I love affirmations because you are literally speaking life to yourself. You're speaking life to your cells. Do you know that your cells listen to the things that you say? So even if you say, I'm stupid, your cells are taking in that energy, and they don't know that you're joking. So we have to be really kind with the way that we handle ourselves, because our mind, our cells, our entire being takes all of that in. And then when we do that, when we understand that it's a lesson, when we make room for the correct emotions at the time that they're coming out, when we understand that we may actually create something beautiful out of this space, then you get to mark your territory. And whenever I say this, I always think about dogs. If you have a dog, the dogs mark their territory to let you know where they pee. And so they let you know that they've been there. So if you've ever walked the dog, they sniff around and they say, that doesn't smell like me. And then what do? They pee on it. So here's the thing. You get to do the same thing in your life when you take your L's, that is your lessons. And then you get to mark this territory as an experience. It's an experience, and you know where you've been, and this stops or it lessens or minimizes the possibility of you having to learn the same lesson over and 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 over. And some people say that they're like, I don't know why this keeps happening to me, because you won't take the L. L means lesson. So, as I promised, I'm going to give you 3 ways and 1 bonus way to keep it real and positive with yourself. Based on everything I said, you've got to see yourself clearly. I know that so many people have had negative experiences as well as good experiences. And so it's important that you see yourself clearly. If there's trauma in your history, heal from the trauma. If you need to get help for that, get help. Help is available to you. If someone is giving you compliments and you know that you are gifted in a particular area, celebrate yourself. Sometimes we just don't do that. I remember for years, I didn't celebrate the things that I did because I thought everybody did them. Like, that's how I thought. And that's not true. Everybody doesn't do things the way I do them. They do them the way they do them, but I'm allowed to celebrate myself. I'm allowed to tell myself, wow, you were really great today. I'm allowed to do that. And that's not about being arrogant. That's simply about being confident in who you are. And we need much more of that. Secondly, allow grace and space to yourself. And I can't take credit for this. One of my friends from college said this to me one day. She said, grace and space, and I've never been able to put it down because that's so important. The grace to deal with situations, and the space, not only to take up space in the world, but the space that you need to reclaim yourself, to figure out what you need to do next. It is okay to pull away from people, or to pull away or to push away from situations in our lives so we can get grounded. And sometimes it's as simple as going outside and sticking your feet in the dirt for 2 minutes. I do that often. If I'm having a rough day, because I do have rough days and I can admit that to you, I will literally say, okay, outside, feet in the grass, 2 minutes. Because sometimes I don't have 10 and I don't like grass that much, but that's beyond the point. But allowing ourselves the grace and the space is so important. And then also committing to learn all the lessons from the outcomes, not just the convenient lessons, the hard lessons, the uncomfortable lessons. If you're never willing to get uncomfortable, you'll never grow. I know y'all have seen that meme. I didn't make it up, but it's so true. Growth comes from our uncomfortable situations. It comes from those times when we felt like we were pressed down. It comes from those times when we were like, okay, I can't see to the right or the left of me. Well, maybe I'll try walking backwards because I know forwards is just not going to work. That's where we get that from. And so commit to learning all of the lessons from your outcomes. Sometimes we get a great outcome. Learn from that. There's a lesson in that. There's just as much of a lesson in doing something fantastic as it is to doing something fearfully. Or there's a lesson to be learned from being celebrated. There is a lesson in that. And there's also a lesson to learn from being tolerated. P.S. Make sure that you're celebrated and not just tolerated. So there's lessons in everything. I think sometimes we feel like the lesson only comes from the bad stuff, but lessons come from good stuff too. So commit to learning all the lessons from your outcomes. And the bonus lesson, release and receive. Because ultimately that's it. I often envision us human beings as one of those big jugs of water, like you put in the water cooler in the office. And I'm like, we only have so much capacity. And I think capacities vary, but I think that, sometimes we've been through things that have diminished our capacity. And so in order for us to regain, let's just say it's, I don't know, 50 gallons, for us to regain our capacity, we have to get in there and release some of those things, release those binding beliefs, release those old operating systems, release those values that have been assigned to experiences. Sometimes we have to go back and rewrite and reframe and reposition it, because now we know it's not the truth. Whatever that person said is not the truth. That situation, I don't see it clearly, because to keep it real with yourself means that you see yourself clearly, the good and the not so good, or the good and what can get better. Depends on how you like to say it. But releasing and receiving is so key, because it allows us the space. See, there's that word again. It allows us the space to exist and to build at our capacity, and just to expand and to be full of beautiful things, of joyful things, of happiness, of love, whatever you desire. So I fervently believe in abundance. I believe in wholeness. And these are just a few ways of how we get it. But in the end, I definitely need you to keep it positive and real with yourself. So thank you. I'm now open for questions.
Thank you so much for that wonderful pep talk, Stephanie. So guys, we are opening the Q&A if you want to go ahead and ask any questions. I do see here we do have Hardik Bhakta. He has a question. He was asking that he's saying he's going through a breakup and he is sort of in a depression mode where he feels he's having anxiety attacks every day. And so he was wondering how to control that, or any tips.
Okay, it really depends. Is the anxiety tied to the breakup? Is it acute or is it chronic? I can see his response too.
Oh, there he
Okay,
is.
it's tied to the breakup. So are you hoping that the breakup doesn't last? Okay, it will last. So because anxiety is really us being afraid of not being able to control our future. Okay, she got married. All right. So are you feeling like you may not find another person to be with? Yeah, y'all, I ask hard questions. Sorry. Okay, you said yes. Okay, that was his response to me. I think so.
Yes.
Okay. So the first. Okay, good. So let me address that and say that you're in a grieving process, and you got to give yourself room for that. On the end of that, the way you can begin to reframe your reality is to tell yourself, yeah, you can't continue. You're allowed to feel that. Your feelings are valid. But what we do is that we take those feelings and we have to, I use a term called conjunctionization, and we have to speak against it. So you just said, I feel like I made a mistake. But here's the but term, because but's going to negate that statement. I feel like I made a mistake in this relationship, but I plan to learn from what happened. The other one that I think I saw, you're not worth it. Sometimes I feel like I'm not worth it, but I know that I am worthy of love and I will find it again. Because if you don't say it out loud, what happens is, remember I talked about feelings lingering beyond the lesson?
Yes.
Then they will do that, and you'll go into a place of self-loathing. And that's how you know they're going too much, you know? And so here's the other thing. If for some reason these acute, holistic ways don't bring you any relief, then I'm going to say that you talk to a professional, a licensed professional counselor. And I know we have those on staff. We have an entire counseling department at HCC, and I know that they would be willing to assist you. And please send, if I can't, send me an email.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And we do have another question by Mr. Munir Syed Ahmad. He's asking about bad habits and what's the best way to stop thinking about them.
It depends what the habits are. Oh yeah, now I can see. Okay, it depends what the habits are.
Oh, there he goes. He says it's a bad habit about staying up until midnight, sometimes wasting time only.
Okay, are you on your phone or just watching TV? What are you doing? Okay, so I once had a client who could not go to bed at a decent hour. So what we did with her was that we had to decide where she could put the phone so that it was out of reach, but didn't give her anxiety about being away from it.
That's
So
a
that's
good.
what we had to do. So are you willing, Munir, are you willing to put your phone across the room or in the bathroom, somewhere that is away from you? Maybe. Probably over there going, no, because the rabbit hole is real. Okay, so in the same room. Okay, so will you do that? Can you do that tonight? Oh, thank you, Victoria. Yeah. Okay, you can do that tonight. Yay. So where are you going to put the phone? I want a specific location. And at what time? Okay, on your desk. Are you going to turn it face down? Oh, like I hate her. No, don't hate me. Okay, so so what time are you going to do this? It's going to go on your desk at what time face down? At 11. Okay, what are you trying to get to bed by midnight? Okay, yeah, that's not going to work. Okay, sleep science coach here. We have to start our sleep hygiene rituals at least an hour before. So if you want to go to sleep at 11, I would probably need that phone down by 10 and you in bed. Can you handle that? Like, just say yes. And then we'll move on to another question. Okay.
I do have a few questions here that popped up on chat.
Okay, well, let's get it. All right, so Munir, we are in commitment now. You're going to put the phone down at 10 p.m., face down on your desk, and you're going to get into bed, and then you're going to report back. I'm just going to share my email. Doesn't matter.
You can do this, Munir.
You can do this, and then you're going to tell me, will it send it? I don't know. It doesn't let me send. I'm Stephanie.McKenzie. So if Nellie wants to share that, I want to hear what happens tonight, Munir, please. Pretty please with sugar on top. We're in commitment now. Okay. I want an email that lets me know. And I just want to really acknowledge Vanessa's comment. Thank you so much. And if you're doing affirmations, make sure that you're saying them in present tense. I am or I have, not I will be, because we don't have a future. We only have the present tense. So that's just my take on affirmations. Okay, chat questions. Let's go.
All right, so we have Leslie Sullivan's asking, what do you mean by mind over brain? Doesn't understand, don't. Let's see if she has more on that.
Okay.
Okay, yes. So that's her question.
Okay, so our mind doesn't comprehend don't. Now, this is something I'd heard before, but when I started studying neuro-linguistic programming, it corroborated that. So our minds don't comprehend don't. So when you're saying things like let's say you're going through a breakup, I don't want to be with anybody like that ever again. More than likely, you're programming your body and your mind that you actually do want to be with somebody because your brain doesn't comprehend the don't. So instead of saying I don't, what you're actually saying is I want to be with somebody like that again. Versus I don't want to be with somebody like that again. The don't drops out. I don't know why. I'll probably get deeper into the why it doesn't, but it doesn't. It does not comprehend that. And that's why you'll see people who can constantly tell you what they don't want, but they're constantly getting it. And they're probably going, well, but I keep saying I don't want this, but it still keeps happening. Your brain is not comprehending. That's why we speak in present tense and we speak affirmatively of the things that we want. So it doesn't matter about not being with somebody like that. What you say is, I want this. I want to be in a relationship with a person who is blah, 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 blah. And it's very specific. I want friends who are blah, 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 blah. I want a job. So you're saying that very clearly, and you're putting that out into the atmosphere, and you're declaring it, or whatever spiritual vernacular you like to use. I went to whole seminary, so I can literally do like double Dutch throughout like spiritual terminology. So whatever you're saying, you want to make sure that it's affirmative and not negative, because your brain won't know the difference. Your brain does not do don't. And you think you're being so powerful saying don't. And it's like, okay, so you want it, right? That's what's happening.
That was great. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Let's see. We have Jesus Cuevas. What is the best way to start the day off to make it a more productive day?
Ooh, depends on you. But I definitely say set the intentions of the day. Like, don't just jump up and be like, oh, I'm awake. Woo, let's get in the. No, don't do that. No. If you can, take a few minutes. Something I like to do is I call it PAMS, prayer, affirmations, meditation, and stretching. Sometimes they get out of order and it becomes AMPS. Sometimes it becomes MAP and there is no stretching. But I really like to set the day and like wake up and pray if you pray, and that's fine if you don't. But do the affirmations, speak over myself, and then meditate. And I have to be really careful about meditating because I will drop off into a deep coma-like sleep. I meditate like a champ, but I'm also certified in meditation, so I got the cheat codes. But in that, set your day. So if you're intending to have a great day, then you can say that. If you journal and write down, today I am da 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 da. Take the time to set your day. And then if you want to move some energy around in your body because you've been asleep and you want to wake up a little bit, you can get up and do hip circles. I know I didn't make this up. According to Dr. Deb Kern, she says that hip circles move energy greater than any other movement. So you get up like you're doing a hula hoop and you do hip circles, and then you can stretch, and then you feel really good. I stretched for like 20 minutes the other day. You really should stretch more than that. But the other day I made a point to stretch for like 20 minutes and it felt so good. Mm-hmm. I know people work, oh yeah, it absolutely wakes up the spine, and that's anyway, we're not gonna get into all that. But anyway, so absolutely I felt great. And it's funny because I actually used to teach a stretching class on a weekly basis, and it stopped when the pandemic started. And so I know that when we work out, a lot of times we'll do that quick stretch at the end, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. But I challenge you to make it a point to stretch like 20 minutes today. Like at the end of the day, at the beginning of your day, give yourself 20 minutes of stretch and see how you feel. I think you're going to be fairly rejuvenated, and report back.
Yeah, and what also helps with meditation is I had one of my old massage therapists. She, I told her I had a lot of like chatter in my mind, and so she kind of she would do like these meditation and yoga sessions, and she was like, you know what, if you have trouble with meditation, if you fall asleep like the first 15-20 minutes, you might really need it. You might really need to calm all that chatter. And so what really helps is if you do I think they're called like guided meditations. They have like these 5-minute guided meditations on YouTube, and you can just listen to them on your way to the car or on your way to work, on your way to the grocery stop. And these meditations, they put the affirmations in them too. So it's like, I am loved, I am beautiful. And so that really helps with me, starting my day. Or I saw this, I think it's on Netflix. It's like Brain Games, I think that's what it's called. And they said that if you wake up and put your arms all the way out, kind of like a star, and just like give your biggest smile, apparently they said that really boosts like serotonin. So I'm not too sure on the experiments and stuff, but it's been working, in the morning, a big smile, and it helps, kind of put everything at ease.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Like, I love movement, and I think sometimes because there's so much going on, sometimes we don't make our self-care a priority, we see it as a luxury. And I'm like, no, daily we have to really daily we have to make ourselves a priority. And it's not just about a bubble bath, or just having a treat, or something. It is really about the priority, saying no when we want to say no, and saying yes when we want to say yes. And so that's what we really need to make a priority in our lives. So setting our intention is really good, because it's saying, okay, this is the order of my day,
Exactly.
And adhering to it.
Mm-hmm. And now we have Miss Morhili Mariano. She says,
Okay.
thank you for the wonderful talk. I have been suffering from low self-esteem ever since I've given birth recently. I've gained weight and I can't look at myself in the mirror. I do have 2 girls under 2. I'm not really sure what to do. How do I bring myself to love myself again?
Okay. Have you talked to your OB? Because I distinctly feel we might be dealing with a little bit of postpartum. And so I want you to talk to your OB/GYN about how you're feeling and see what she's going to recommend. Once we know once we know what it is, because like I said, it could definitely be postpartum, and the imbalancing and the rebalancing of your hormones, then we know what can happen next. But in the interim, if you're beginning to speak to yourself, but ask yourself, well, okay, well, what's the problem here? Is it that I gained weight? Is it that, I just don't like I just don't like what I look like? Or is there someone saying things to me? These are real questions. Is someone acting differently towards me? Get to the real root of the issue, so that way you can take the proper actions toward it. But I definitely want to see you call your OB.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. And let's see, we have Huang Trin. He says, oop, where did he go? There he goes. I immigrated from Vietnam 5 years ago. I am a non-traditional student. I always feel pressured to be surrounded by successful people in my extended family. I know it's not good to feel that, but somehow I still keep having that feeling. I am in second year at HCC, studying hard and having GPA 4.0. I'm getting LSAM scholarship. However, I still feel not enough. What should I do to get rid of that feeling?
Figure out where it's coming from. I mean, it's the root. Because if I said to you, oh, just tell yourself you are enough, that's not going to help us. There is a space within you that an experience or something has shaped. Again, a sign, a line, design. So there's something that has happened, or somebody said something, or there may be an incident that that your mind is recalling, and it's aligned this and ascribe this idea that you're not enough to it. And so figuring out the root of it is going to be so key to dealing with it in general. So it is so necessary to figure out the root, trace it backwards. We always talk about here in my practice, we talk about tracing triggers to the truth. So if you're triggered by a particular thing in the present, that is literally your past saying, hi, I need to be dealt with. So tracing it backwards, trying to figure out what happened. One meditation that I do to help with this is that you meditate and you're in the deep meditative state. And then I ask you to choose a number between 1 and 11. And so sometimes you'll picture it, and then I'll say, okay, usually that number may coincide with an age where something happened that you want to deal with.
Let's see. Awesome. Let's see. Who do we have here? Huang? Okay, we don't have a comment from Huang yet, but we do have, let's see if we can fit in 1 or 2 more questions here.
Okay.
I have Miss, where did she go? Miss, Hemaya Bujel. She says, I have a problem. I always forget the thing that is urgent for me. Even I write notes, the urgent thing in my calendar and a notebook. I want to remember my urgent thing regularly.
Okay. Is it that, okay, so do you remember urgent things for other people?
Maya, you still there? Okay. Oh, she's there. So Maya, is the problem that you're remembering other people's important task? Okay. So you're forgetting your important task. Okay. And is this because you're probably thinking about other people's important things to do? Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's really a question of honoring yourself. You know, it's like if you decide if you're important, if you're going to make yourself important, then you're going to make yourself important.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no magical fix to that. If you have been in a place where you've always put yourself second or third or at the very bottom of the list, it's really about reclaiming the space and recognizing that, you know what, I'm important, and usually I'm more important than all of these other people. That includes children, that includes spouses, because if you don't notice, those same people are also not making you a priority. So they are reflecting the same energy that you're putting towards yourself. And so if you want things to change in your life, like to do a complete 180, then you begin to make yourself a priority. The people around you will reflect that as well, and everything will shift. But until you decide that you merit priority, then you're going to have the same situation.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we have any more questions from you guys? You can type it in the chat box. Thank you, Maria. Maria says this has been so helpful. We also
Yay.
have, we're so happy that you guys enjoyed this. We also have Jessica Chan and Huang and Leslie. Thanking you, Stephanie, for your awesome advice. And guys,
Okay.
Stephanie did leave her email in the chat box. That way, if you guys want to follow up with her at any time, that is her email. It's stephanie.mckenzie@hccs.edu. All right.
It makes it easy to find. So if you email me there, then I can stay in touch with you guys. And like I said, it's just easier if you use my HCC email, because we all know what that would be.
Alrighty. Oh, we have one last. I think we can fit one last question. Oluwadolapo.
Okay.
Let's see. Olua, do you mind typing in your question, because I don't see it anymore. It might have been under the Q&A.
Oh.
Okay. Olua, you can, if you'd like, you can go ahead and is it okay if she sends you an email?
Sure.
Yeah. Perfect. Alrighty. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's event. I also want to inform you all to please check your email by this Friday to see if you guys win a prize gift card. We are rewarding 2 attendees at random as usual, so make sure you all check for that. Also, before you log out, feel free to RSVP our future events. We do have these every Tuesday at noon. I am putting the link right now in the chat box. There we are. All right. And we're all set. Any last comments, Stephanie?
No, I just want to thank you again. I'm always excited to do this. I really want to impress upon everyone that, you being a priority, some of the things that I say may sound a little foreign to you. And I'm like, listen, if you can take the time to fix, to people please, to help, to enable other people, you can turn that energy into yourself. And instead of being their superhero, you can be your own superhero. So just keep that in mind.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And everyone, have a blessed rest of the week. Enjoy the rest of your day today. And remember, you come first. Bye, guys.